And Medicaid covers medical trips on our shared ride and paratransit services. Discover your options. Call 724-628-RIDE or visit factbus.com. Fact, driving independence in Fayette County.
This is The Great Outdoors with Jason White, exploring the great outdoors in Pennsylvania and beyond. Brought to you by the Mariana Outdoorsmen Association and by Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Now, The Great Outdoors with Jason White.
Hello, friends. I'm Jason White. Welcome to The Great Outdoors. I have a special guest today. For those watching, you'll see I'm not sitting in the station. I'm actually remote. And my guest today, with who I will introduce in a minute, we're gonna do a deep dive into some hunting tactics upcoming this fall. But before I introduce him, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors. Mariana Outdoorsman Association. You can join the MOA today at MarianaOutdoors.com. Running an early bird special. If you join today, you get the remainder of the year for free. Plus, you get all of 2026. This is one heck of a deal. Go to our website, MarianaOutdoors.com. Give us a call, 724-579-0924. Upland bird stockings done regularly from fall all the way into late winter or even early spring. Trout stockings going on from October all the way into May of next year, 1,000-yard rifle range, and so much more. Again, MarianaOutdoors.com. Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds, which is managed and operated by 10 Mile Creek Outfitters. If you're interested in any type of guided hunt, whether that be a free-ranging whitetail hunt, turkey hunt, upland bird hunt, trout fishing trip. If you're interested in having a corporate event, we have fundraisers, we have host weddings, lots and lots to do. I would be remiss to not also mention about the fantastic lodging. 10mileco.org. Give us a call, 724-579-0924. Again, that's TENMILECO.org. And last but not least, special thanks to the Washington County Tourism and Promotion Agency. Please visit Washington County, Pennsylvania. My guest today is a good friend of mine, Dave Breyer. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, how are you doing?
Fantastic. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners out there and those watching? Tell them about what you got going on.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, my name is David Beer. I own Apparition Scent and RD1 Outdoors LLC. I make a whole line of deer lure. Some is very effective, and we absolutely love it. I make it all by myself in Dillon, Pennsylvania, right over in Greene County.
So it's a Pennsylvania product here in southwestern Pennsylvania. I know Dave has some samples there. You want to walk through the different products, Dave, when you use them, when you don't use them, techniques, strategies. Happy to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll first start with Phantom Hunter Body Wash. I start using it in September, and it absolutely eliminates all your scent. So you want to shower with that before you go out in the woods, because a deer's nose is his number one defense mechanism. So that's the Phantom Hunter Body Wash. That also doubles as a clothes wash. So you just dump a little bit in your wash machine, and it washes your hunting clothes and removes the scent from them.
I think that's an important thing to highlight on too, Dave, because I think sometimes people fail to realize that just because there's something Dave's sitting on here, and I want to really nail this home, people have a bad habit of they'll wash their clothes in some type of a hunting soap, but then they fail to realize all the scents that are in a house, all the scents between colognes and deodorants, etc., that you use on a day-to-day basis outside of hunting. So I think it's very important to drive home the fact that, especially when you get into hunting season, like Dave is saying, it's important to kind of transition your shampoo and body wash over to a hunting style. And certainly there's even conversations about deodorants, but thanks for certainly bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I always run a cycle first with just the soap to get any of the like regular brand out of my machine also. So then we have the next item is the Phantom Hunter, and that is your spray. So you spray down once you get to your stand. And this, gets the wet, your sweat and everything else, and it 100% kills all your smell.
Fantastic.
So
that's also something I would tell people. Just a tactic and strategy. I don't know how you do it, Dave, but especially if it's a day where it's not super cold, or say it is super cold and you're layered up because obviously it's going to be cold. I always try to take my coat off and even a base layer, and then I'll have it in my pack or I'll carry it in, and then I'll spray myself down. Then I put that back on. That's one of the biggest things which Dave is hitting on is your sweat puts off an odor, and if you do not account for that when you get to the stand, you are certainly putting yourself at a disadvantage.
Oh yeah, you'll hear them blow out their nose for sure. So like what I do is I keep my clothes in a tote, and I take that with me in the bed of the truck. So I don't even put anything on at the house other than my base layer and a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and then I dress right there, right there along the road before I walk into my stand.
Fantastic. Yeah, I over the years, that's one of the worst things somebody can do is have good, your clothes wash good, your deodorant, you're all good, but then if you're off the beaten path and you got a long walk and you're sweating.
Yeah, you definitely got to carry your stuff in a pack. I mean, it's fortuitive. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to do that. I know it's a pain, but do you want to sit there for however long you're going to sit there and not see anything and have them down over the hill blowing out their nose? I mean, you just don't want that. That's a waste of time.
Absolutely, 110%. I agree.
So
what do you got next?
So next we have the Apparition Scents Woodland Spray cover scent. And now I have Pine Patch, I have a cedar, which is real good in the early season also, to keep the mosquitoes away, and also an oak, if you're hunting on an oak flat. But this actually, it's not overwhelming, but it'll spray you down and you'll smell like, this smells like dirt, another one oak, pine, and cedar. So those three cover scents is, I'll hit myself with the Phantom Hunter, and then I'll come back and hit myself with this while I'm up in a stand after I get situated.
What would you say to people, because I think this is another interesting topic. So, when Dave's talking about cover scents, it's really, really critical that everybody understands the specific cover scent. I'd say your dirt cover scent, Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more of your general kind of one-stop shop, kind of covers all your bases.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be in an oak orchard and wearing a pine covering.
No.
And you don't want to be in a pine area and you have oak on. The deer will figure out the fact that, well, that smells weird. That scent should not be here.
Exactly.
The whole concept is try to blend in as best as possible with your surroundings.
Absolutely.
But highly recommend when you get to your stand. This is also something I personally will spritz myself, obviously with the prior product,
the Phantom Hunter.
The Phantom Hunter, and then this type of stuff is when I'm in the stand and I want to spray myself again just to give that coverage. And I think it's a fantastic way to go about doing it.
Yep. I mean, and after guiding for all these years and hunting myself for 30 some years now, it's critical to have your scent eliminated, especially if you're hunting a trophy whitetail. I mean, I got it for like 20 some years in Illinois, and I mean, you don't have them blow out their nose. I mean, that's the worst thing in the world for a hunter to hear that noise. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the one thing about it is, and I've learned this from experience with deer, their nose is amazing. And you got to be, there's a prior conversation here too, and that goes with tree stand location and obviously knowing your wind. If the deer are coming from a specific area and the wind is blowing right there, that is probably not the best setup for you that particular day. So it's obviously important.
Absolutely. You have to know the terrain, have an idea. But in the rut, that deer could come from anywhere. So the more prepared you are with products makes it beneficial for you to be successful.
I totally agree. I think scent coverage is critical. And also what people have to be also conscientious of is, especially depending on where you're hunting, you could be sitting there in a stand and say you're watching a couple of does. Well, guess what? Just because they may not smell you or see you, you got to be really cognizant of what, your surroundings, and know, like, hey, if the wind's blowing, say to my right, you got to really keep your eye to the right the whole time, because you don't want to be in a scenario where, say you get winded and they start like looking up in your direction. And the worst thing is when they're on alert, sometimes they won't even snort right away. Sometimes they'll just be like looking. And that's when, you don't realize they're looking. You go to make an adjustment, you go to grab your bow, looking at a different deer, and then it's, here comes the
ball game.
And then the ball game's over. So scent is so important. Cannot stress it enough. So everything, we've talked about till now with Dave's products, I think are extremely important. And everybody, if you're somebody that hasn't used stuff like this, it's certainly, I'm sure Dave would talk to you one-on-one.
Yeah, it would definitely be beneficial.
So what do you got next, Dave?
So, okay, now we're going to go and get into our attracting lures. So, we'll just get right into it first. This is Undertaker. It's real dirt infused with 2.5-year-old bucks and younger. And you just make a scrape or find an existing scrape, put about a third of the bottle in that scrape, and that's going to give you, that buck's going to check. He's going to check that.
So for the new hunters out there, Dave, what is a scrape?
Okay, like a buck will make a scrape to establish his territory, and he'll run that circle of scrapes and check every one for a doe. When a doe comes into season, she'll mark that scrape with her urine, and he'll go and check it. He'll walk around. He'll have his area, his territory, and he'll check those scrapes. You know what I mean? And because he makes
a visual aid for anybody out there. Envision a tree limb that's hanging down about, what would you say, Dave? About 5 foot off the ground.
Probably.
And what'll happen is whitetail buck will come to that, and typically they do two things. Typically they will, on the ground,
paw the ground, yep.
They will paw the ground with their hooves, and it'll be about, I don't know, it'll be about I'm going to just say 12 inches by 12 inches. You'll just see a bare dirt spot. And they'll do typically 2 additional things. So there's 3 things typically. You can see it as clear as day. There'll just be a dirt spot where you can see where they dug. They'll typically go to the bathroom. Typically they urinate in that area. And then the third thing they usually do, they will usually rub their face, or they'll lick a branch. They call it a licking branch. It's usually, if it's not directly above, it's usually in that vicinity where they will rub their face with their orbital gland.
Yep.
And also get some additional body scent, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, there's
just another marking.
A forehead gland. What he'll do is he'll stick his head up in there. Sometimes they'll even stand on their hind legs to get higher, bite off the so-called licking branch, and it'll hang. And then they'll run their orbital gland, which is like right here, right under their nose, on that. And that brings me to the nightmare. This is 100% orbital gland lure that I make. And also we pair that with a hemp rope. So you could just tie this rope up on that because it's pre-soaked with the orbital gland, and that makes the actual natural scrape. So the way that I do it is my best comfortable yardage is 25 yards. So I'll put that scrape at 25 yards to just a little bit. I'm left-handed, so just a little bit to the right of my tree stand. And that's where I shoot my deer, coming right into that scrape.
Well, I think last year, if anybody goes and looks at my Facebook page, I shot a very, very nice 150 class buck, and I shot it over top of Dave's products. I put some of the material on the scrape on the ground, and what I did is the licking branch area, I actually just took the orbital gland mix and I put it on the limb itself, and I literally had a 8-point come right to it, a small 8-point, and then out of nowhere just this big tank of a buck came up, and he was going right for it. Gave me a shot at 30 yards with my bow and arrow, and sealed the deal. So I can attest from experience that this scrape hunting tactic is very, very good.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. But and it happens. Like, I put them out, and some of them out at September, at beginning of September, and as soon as they start losing the velvet, going to hardhorn, and I'll put a camera on it or go back and check, and there'll be, sometimes they take over that scrape, and sometimes they'll just make one right beside of it, which is perfectly fine. Some of those bigger deer, they'll go in there and they'll absolutely take that area over, and he'll lay there, and I don't know how many pictures, and wait for the intruder to come so they could fight. I don't know how many trail cam pictures and customer photos and all that stuff that people send me on social media and also text of 2 bucks showing up at the same time and just start fighting right there over the scrape.
Well, I will say, from all my years hunting, if you can identify a good scrape and rub line, I'm talking something that's typically historical, which Dave can attest to this. Typically, the bucks in general will hit the similar corridor every year. So once you find a hot spot, it typically is going to be hot every year, unless obviously something crazy happens, like you log or timber a property, or you do some type of development. But once you find a corridor, a travel corridor, they typically will be pretty darn close to that. Respectfully, every year. What I will say, from what I found, is if you can identify a corridor that is near oak trees that are dropping acorns, usually by right now to the middle of October, I'm telling you what, if you can find a good corridor where there's a standardized annual scrape and rub line, as soon as you see them starting to rub and scrape, I'm telling you what, Dave, I really enjoy hunting those spots because I just feel like every day you might see different bucks because they're just traveling to mark their territory. Like, that's what they're doing.
Yep, they're setting up dominance. You know, they're getting ready for the November rut. I mean, they want to, you know, get it going and figure out who is the dominant deer in that area and who's going to breed the most does.
And when we talk about this, just so listeners know, we're not talking a buck that's on full tilt chasing a doe. That's not what this is. This is basically they are establishing their domain, their territory. Think of it like a dog that goes and marks its territory. It's the same kind of premise, but for a whitetail buck, they go and they travel their corridors, their circle, whatever that radius is that they're going to stick to, and they're going to make scrapes. They're going to rub their face with their orbital gland on the licking branches, and they're also going to do buck rubs. These are all like telltale signs. But you can assure when they're doing that, all the bucks are going to be doing it. So like all the bucks just start kind of, it's almost like the sharks. Think of it like sharks kind of circling. They're all preparing, waiting for, as Dave said, the does to come into heat. Now, once the does come into heat, it's a completely different ballgame then. Now you're getting the chasing. It's not really necessarily a pattern. It's just basically a full bore, a buck following or tending to a doe that's, you know, ready for reproduction. But continue, Dave. Sorry.
But no, that's fine. But that's like you mentioned, that oak flat or that travel corridor. Even as they change and start cruising, you know what I mean? That is the most effective time. I've actually watched bucks tending a doe, and she wasn't quite ready, but pretty close. And he would go and he'd follow her, and then 15 steps, 20 steps, he'd make a little rub. 20, 25 more steps, he'd make it a scrape just to show that he was a dominant deer. And I've witnessed it. You know, I sat in this tree stand for 20-some years, the whole month of November, and have witnessed a lot of whitetail behavior. And that calling is effective. You know what I mean? We make the grunt calls also, but it's very effective in that time frame. You know what I mean? That late October to mid-November. But the most I say promising product that we absolutely love is the Inferno here. Now this is your rut. When a doe's ready to stand, that's what's in this bottle. I mean, this is the hottest product that I make, and we sell a ton of it. And it's a free-for-all. Like, what I do is I'll start at the stand. It's very important you start at the stand and go from your scrape out 35, 40 yards. Bring your drag rag back, or that's why it has like a flip top. I'm not going to flip it up in here, but it has a flip top spout, and you can just drip as you go and put more closer to your stand. So like just anything like bird dog tracks, where the bird's setting is going to be where it smells the most. That's why he points. Same way, you go 30 yards this way, 30 yards this way. So you got a 60-yard corridor where if he crosses your path at any point, he crosses that scent and comes into the hottest part, and that's at your stand. So it's very effective technique in that rut.
I also want to say, too, you know, we talked about, obviously, the shower products. We talked about the body spray. We talked about the cover scents. This stuff is also, although it's meant to draw them in and it's meant to be an attractant, it's also, think of it this way, it's also a cover scent.
And a
Having that out
distraction.
there, yes, it's a distraction to where when they're at this time of the year that we're at now, where we're talking about they're in rut, this is where they just make irrational and poor mistakes. I would say, from experience, you will typically see younger bucks that will just be erratic. Your first, second rack bucks, they'll typically, this hasn't always been true, but for the most part for me, it seems like the younger deer are the ones that just are like going at a much higher speed or rate of pace. When I've seen a giant buck, which I've witnessed the past couple of years, they're like sharks. They're not going to exhaust they will hover. I've watched a big buck just hover around a doe where he just waits. He patiently just waits and just hovers around. Like I said, that's another telltale sign of age, I think. You're rarely going to see a giant buck be on a full-bore chase. Typically, they're going to be more patient. They're going to be more dominant. They're just going to keep any smaller bucks away. I watched a buck last year, which is not normal. Giant buck. It was 150 class for Pennsylvania. That's a very good deer.
That's a good deer anywhere.
Out in the middle of a field for 2 days, he was literally broad daylight. He was just standing watching this doe. Just would not leave her. Wasn't pressuring or pushing. So I throw that out there because you can always tell the quality of a buck also by their actions. That doesn't always hold to be true. You will have times when a big buck will, take off and go and do a full bore chase. But I would say for the most part, in my experience, it's been more of your younger bucks are the ones that get crazy and just take off and go. But yeah, I think Dave's products are fantastic. I've used them. They've all worked for me. I shot a very, very good Pennsylvania buck last year in archery, and certainly, to your point, Dave, about even the circle, this goes back to, I talk on other episodes about shooting lanes, stand placement. When you're setting your stands up in your locations to use Dave's products, you want to be thinking that way months in advance. So, like, where are your shooting lanes?
Oh yeah.
Where are your travel corridors? How are you getting in and out of your stand? Like, this is many of the bucks that you will shoot are shot by your preparation in advance.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sure Dave can attest to, the work you have to do to get your stand in a good spot, prepping your shooting lanes, obviously shooting your bow or your firearm, scent control with your clothing, with your body, scent control when you get out to the stand, and then you get into these really fun and pinpoint strategies, whether that's over a scrape, cover scents, etc. And explain to people, Dave, this isn't these strategies with the scents, at least the attractants will say. These aren't stuff you would do necessarily. Like there's certain times of the year. If you want to explain that to people so they better understand, it's not something you can just do any time of the year.
No, like now's the time, I went last 2 Sundays ago to check a couple oak flats and look, and heck, there was seven scrapes on that field edge. You know what I mean? And then down over the hill on the flat, there was what you call a big community scrape. Now, I mean, it looked like the hood of an old Volkswagen. So that's where, you know what I mean? You want to focus on that and find that area, you know what I mean? And then set your stand accordingly. There's a lot of techniques that work, and there's a lot that don't, for that matter. But like you were saying, stand placement is crucial. I've hung a lot of stands over my lifetime, taking people out in the Midwest and hunting, and I'd hang every one of their stands and tell them, this is where you got to be. You sit here for a week, you're going to kill a deer. It might not be that 180-inch deer that you were dreaming of, but a 140-inch deer, that's an amazing animal. I mean, my best friend killed a gigantic 160-inch deer out there, and what happened was 5 different smaller bucks were chasing that doe, and this big guy came in to the middle of this cornfield, and he just stood over top of her and run them out. And then he'd come back and he'd stand there, and it was like a face-off for quite some time, and then she finally got up and just eased into the timber right where his stand was, and he got him. I mean, and that's a world-class animal right there. And that's just the part that, we emphasized in this discussion today. But, you never know for 100%. Once you think you know everything about whitetail hunting, then they prove you wrong. The whitetail deer is the king. You know what I mean? And
the buck I shot last year, I would have never thought. He came up a ravine, and I'm talking a steep up and down ravine. This buck walked up this ravine, and I would have never dreamt in a million years that he would have walked that path or came there. How I saw him, I just saw the rack going up and down as he was walking up this ravine, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is about to happen. And so to your point, you have to prepare, you have to have good stand placement, you have to be in places, whether that's an oak flat, whether that's a travel corridor, whatever it may be. To Dave's point, you're going to find big scrapes.
Right now, with not having a lot of rain for a while, you get a secluded little pond. I'd put me a stand there, especially if there's oaks around or other mass crops, for this early season.
So the place that I shot that buck last year, it's an oak flat with a spring.
Yeah.
So it's fresh water coming. Deer like fresh water as opposed to stagnant water, and deer understand that, it's no different than you or me. We would prefer fresh water as opposed to more stagnant water. So to Dave's point, we're in a drought right now. If you're going to go out hunting right now, being by, even if it's a little trickle thing going through the woods, anything like that is a great place to be, because typically your deer, when they're coming out of a field or they're traveling in the morning, they usually hit some water source in the morning, and they'll graze, and they'll usually be bedded down around, 10 o'clock in the morning is when they usually sit down for, a few hours and take their rest. But I can't stress it enough. All of Dave's products work extremely well. How do people go about, if they want to purchase any of the products, Dave, how do they go about acquiring them?
Well, the easiest way is to go to www.apparitionscent.com, and it's right there. It's easy. Everything, you click right on the first page, it has all the products right on there. So you just click on what you want, check out, I mail it out that day. Local shops that have it is Ozzy's in Dry Tavern, let me think, High Strung Motorsports and Carmichael's. They carry it at Creek Archery in the Mon Valley, at Yukon, Pennsylvania. They have it in Morgantown at the Sportsman's Emporium, and a whole host of other shops around the country.
Well, fantastic. I think that everybody should look into this stuff. Obviously, those that are watching this on video, you can see the labels and obviously the different products as Dave's been holding them up and showing them through this episode. Is there any other way? Can they reach you on social media or any other
Oh, yeah.
mechanisms to get a hold of you, Dave?
Oh yeah, we have. I have a Facebook page. It's Dear Lord Dave. Instagram is Get the Guttin. We have the Apparition Scent on the TikTok. You could private message me on any of those, and then there's actually a place on the website where you could send a message on apparitionset.com.
I can attest. Shot a fantastic, probably once in a lifetime buck last year with a bow. It's the biggest one I've ever harvested, and it was over Dave's products. So I will be one of the first to assess that it works. It's really good. And certainly I thank you, Dave, for introducing me to everything you have and offer. I want to ask you, can you tell the people what is your opinion about Sunday hunting, and what is your opinion about the changes that have come from the Game Commission as a whole?
I'm excited about it. I mean, as you know, I got upland game bird hunts with my Weimaraners out at your place. That just gives me a whole opportunity to, help people have fun. I mean, that's why I do all this stuff. That's why I make deer lore. I ain't getting rich off of it by any stretch, anyway. But I just like to see people be successful in the outdoors, and I absolutely love it. I think the Sunday hunting I wish it would be every Sunday. You know what I mean? But they put forth an effort, and, I'm glad that they made this decision.
Well, I'm personally really excited about it because I think, to your point, people are going to have a lot more opportunities, many more opportunities. I think, to your point, even the bird hunting, you and I have talked so many times, I think there's economic impacts in a positive regard.
Oh, absolutely.
I think you're going to see a lot more. One thing I know that was a deterrent in the past, people that wanted to come for weekend trips or 3-day trips, having that down day on a Sunday was never, it was never well received, I guess I'll say it. People from other states don't want to just come and sit on their laurels on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see a lot more travelers. I think you're going to see a lot more people out there enjoying the outdoors. And, I myself am trying everything I can to build better relationships with the Game Commission via the Farm Bureau.
Yeah.
And for those that do not know, that's why I'm not in the studio today. I am, and I wasn't there last week. I've been traveling the state. I'm currently running for vice president of the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau this fall, and I do not believe we've ever had a statewide vice president from the Fayette County Farm Bureau. So I'm really hopeful. I'm really optimistic of where I'm at. But we've achieved so many things, Dave, to help get hunters like yourself and the people that you deal with to give more opportunity, because that's my goal, is to just get more people to enjoy it. That's why with the Marion Outdoorsman Association, which you're a member of, and Wild Acres and 10 Mile Creek Outfitters, it's all about getting people to have a good time, getting people to enjoy the outdoors, connecting them with it, especially young people.
Yeah, there's nothing like seeing that kid get his first pheasant or shoot his first deer, or her shooting her first turkey. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, just because I remember when I was a kid, I had a great mentor that took me and showed me all of my stuff, and I just grew from that. And it's something. I mean, I'd love to see the look on even an adult's face that never did it, before. I've taken guys out from, that worked the hospital there, and some of them ain't never hunted before. And, you show them all the safety things and have the safety talk and take them, and they just are astounded by the fact that bird dog could do the stuff that he can or she can do.
Well, I'm really, I'm excited to see where things kind of go, where they progress with, game commission, Sunday hunting. There's a lot of other changes that I've talked about on, prior episodes, and it's just all positive, and I'm really excited. I'd
like to see the turkey season be included in the Sunday hunting, because it runs out.
So,
from what I understand, it runs out in January or December.
So the reason that happened was the Game Commission voted on. They have to vote on season of the bag limits, the Board of Commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
So the season of the bag limits were already kind of preset through, obviously, before this legislation was signed into law. So that's why there's been like the scramble.
Yeah.
Because there's other implications when you get into waterfowl and migratory birds.
Yeah.
That alone, you're only allowed so many set days by federal law. So there's different reasons that this has all been has been how it's been handled. But I can tell you this: from what I know, the plan is that every Sunday is to be opened. They vote again in January. Mm-hmm. So I think it might be a little trial and tribulation until we get to next spring.
Yeah.
But when we get into the next calendar year hunting seasons, which will be voted on in the spring, I would expect you're going to see everything opened. But
so like the 26, 27 season.
27, I think you're going to see everything wide open.
Yeah.
But Dave, I thank you for coming on. Again, Apparition Sense, check out Dave. Thank you for coming. I want to have you back because there's a lot of other stuff I want to talk about, from upland birds to processing deer to
a little bit
tactics,
of
strategies.
Yeah.
Trapping, I think, is a huge topic. But thank you, Dave. I want to give one final shout-out to our sponsors, Mariana Outdoorsman Association, MarianaOutdoors.com, Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds, 10mileco.org. Both of those, you can call 724-579-0924. And last but not least, thank you to Washington County Tourism and Promotion Agency. Please visit Washington County. I'm Jason White. This has been a Great Outdoors, and I will see you all next week. Thank you.
And this is WMBS Uniontown at 11 o'clock.
Who else wants to come to the Oval Office? Look, I'll go down to the Capitol right now.
Vice President Vance on CBS Mornings, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer on CNN.
Now